Hey, Damon, happy Monday, brother. How are you, dude?
I'm doing great, Kurt. How are you today?
Oh my God, if I was any better, it'd still be the weekend, right? This is just
Yeah.
such an exciting man. Here we are, manufacturing Monday motivation. Our goal is to help folks stop being the best kept secret. And I am so excited, so thrilled, so honored to introduce my dear friend, Aline Badder Than Bad. She's coming to us across the pond here, Damon.
Yeah.
Aline, how are you today?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Are you asking how am I?
How are you doing? Like what? It's what 6:30 your time right now?
It's 6:30. I've gone through the Monday blues. So I'm good. Like we start sometimes like with the Monday blues, but I'm good and I'm ready to sort of, have this conversation at the beginning of your Monday. Yeah, all good. Terrific weekend, hot weather. Can't complain.
Well, this is perfect because Damon's having breakfast. I'm having lunch. You're having dinner. So we're all breaking bread together. Just a little different time of day. So
Yeah.
super excited to have you here. We have a couple of people here. Hey, Latoya's dropping a note here. So excited for this. We've got our dear friend Rebecca. Happy Monday from Chicagoland. Hey, Rebecca, we were just on our mastermind group together, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Aline, you are a global executive coach. One of my favorite things about you, you are a blind spot remover. We're going to talk about, man, what is a blind spot remover? That is her superpower. But we want to take a deep dive. So, you know what? I'm going to kick things off right. Damon, I'm not even monkeying around with this one. We're going to take a deep dive right into it. You ready? Are you ready for this first question? Let's make it happen. Okay, Aline, my first question for you today. Little girl, now you're international, 4 languages, lived in multiple different countries. It's such an inspiration. We're going to dig into this. As a little girl growing up, who was your hero growing up? Who transformed this amazing dynamic powerhouse of a woman, this wonderful business coach that you are? Who was your hero growing up?
Oh my gosh, I wish my brother can hear. Is this recorded? Can I send it to my brother?
Yes, you can.
Because I'll have to say that it is absolutely my brother. My brother was an innovator. My brother did things that had no precedence. Started businesses, moved to Germany to import export cars. I'm like, we never knew of any of that. So I think I learned so much from his risk taking and just the way that he handled himself in life. So he's definitely my hero. I love him to death. We've had so many arguments over the years, but I love him to death, and he's totally my hero.
And what's your brother's name?
Tony.
Well, hey, a big hello, big shout out to Tony. Tony is a hero to kick off the program. So, guys, we're here today. We got a shout out from Megan. Hey, Megan, how are you? Happy Monday to you. Great to see you here. So, guys, if you're with us, drop us a note. You absolutely want to connect with Aline, connect with her on LinkedIn. I've dropped her website. I've dropped her newsletter, which is a dynamo. Nice. So let's dig into a couple of things, Aline. So you have a great quote here. So the key to leadership success is influence, not authority. Influence, not authority. Now, this is just music to our ears here, Damon. Aline, let's take a deep dive there. What do you mean by that statement? How do you help bring out the best in your C-level executives that you're working with? How do you bring their superpowers out?
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. You really are going deep dive with the first question there, Kurt, because it really is something that is a differentiator. I think, the hierarchical system of leadership, the sort of, command, type of leadership, it just doesn't work anymore. And I think it's so much easier to influence, but also influence sometimes has a negative connotation in the sense that people might think that it's authority. But impactful, like influence, it really comes down to self-awareness, to really understanding, like, who are you? What's your impact on the other person? How are you being perceived by the other person? What kind of responsibility do you have as an individual to bring to the team, to the business, to any stakeholder that you might have? And that has a lot to do with, self-awareness of the individual to inspire action, not command action, right? And so that's the difference, from my perspective, between influence and authority. And when you inspire action, it's much more sustainable. You're building loyal business, you're building loyal relationships, you're building, relationships where people will just do anything for you. when you're being responsible for who you are. When I say, when you lead yourself first, then you can lead others.
Oh, that is so good. Yeah. So let's take that a little further. Now, Damon, if you jump, guys, you have to connect with Aline here, and she is just a dynamo, as you're finding out. If you check out some of the things that are said about Aline, I want to share, Damon. Team player, poise, professionalism, personal commitment. Okay. Keen eye for strategic brand management. I'd like to dig into that a little bit. Incredibly talented strategic coach, valuable coach and advisor. And this I love the most. Help me work through challenging leadership situations. Now, you shared Tony was your hero growing up. You've had a dynamic career. I believe you've worked with some of the who's who, Deloitte, ING, some TD, some great companies that have been, on your roster as far as clients go. Talk a little bit about your personal leadership skills. Like, how did you develop to get to this point on you becoming a leader, and how your ability to help leaders?
Yeah, I think, just, picking up on what I just said, like in the last one, I think I've always somehow known that you've got to lead yourself first. So I've been a self-starter. I don't know if that's natural. I don't know where that comes from. I don't really care to know where that comes from, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I've learned that is something that really tracks in life. You really can go far when you're able to really lead yourself first. So I've always been a self-starter. I've always also observed. I think, some of the things that, you pick up when you observe other interactions. You pick up things that you don't want, to be or do. You also pick up things that you really want to expand on. And so that ability, I think, has really put me in this place. And I've sort of known when it's time to exit and it's time to enter and it's time to sort of leave a job or start something, or if I have a grand idea, to go for it, just by really getting to know myself over the years. And we evolve. So it's a continuous sort of process, to go through that. And so I think part of the question, Kurt, was how do I do this for others? I think, one of the question that you might have is what I talked about in the intro a little bit, is this idea that, branding and reputation management, and PR, they're great strategies. But at the end of the day, you're a human being at the end of the day. And, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know, the level that you can go to, the flexibility that you have within a team, you might be hit with a crisis, which will happen to any leader, small company, startup, it will happen. And so if you don't know yourself, you don't know how to save your reputation. The strategy that you put on, from public relations perspective, or, stakeholder relations, all of those things can only get you so far. But it really is your ability to know yourself and how to handle yourself in a crisis, is really important. Not to say that my daily job is to, deal with crises. But it is part of, the strategy of helping somebody reinforce and root themselves in who they are, so that whatever happens, in life, that they can handle it for themselves and the business that they run, because you're inspiring others, right, in a leadership position. And so helping them, remove the blind spots, as you so call me, like the blind spot remover, which I love. By the way, I can't help but think about what is that? My Greek wedding with the Windex.
Yeah.
I feel like, I swear.
Yeah, the father, right? The father, Windex and everything.
There's a Windex on it.
Some solution, and just go spray on people to remove the blind spots.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Getting clarity. I think I help them get clarity on who they are, and then they really can influence others, influence their life, influence others better, and they really have an impactful career and business.
I want to go off script a little bit for myself on that. I want to go one step further. So do you feel, as a coach, are you able to kind of, with that blind spot remover, I love the Windex analogy. That's absolutely perfect. Do you feel that you're able to maybe remove the emotion, or help if they're in that crisis, get your adrenaline is flowing and you're emotional, maybe anger, upset, whatever emotion that you're feeling. When you're coaching with your C-level executives, do you feel that do you help them kind of temper, or maybe, remove the emotion? Is that kind of what you're helping with?
so interesting what you just said, Kurt, because in my past life of when I was just a consultant in PR and reputation and marketing, or just the beginning stages of my coaching career, I would say that I was shy away from emotions. I'd say like emotions, put them to the side, don't deal with them, But I think my evolution as a coach and the more that I've gotten certified in different types of coaching, the more that I find emotions are the door to the solution. Right. And because often leaders are human beings. And so, there's this responsibility to fix everything. You have to fix everything. You have to fix people's problems, business problems, your stakeholders, your, everybody's problems. And so you take on so much. And so you're a human being with emotions. And if you're not just acknowledging the emotion, I think you're missing a huge opportunity to get through the issue, through the problem much more efficiently. So now I really just name it. You just name the emotion. Like if you have a client that you might sense that they're angry, you just say, are you angry about something? And they might say no, right? But as a coach, it's your job to name it. And by the way, you do that by listening, right? You really listen. That's the role of coaching. The most baseline of coaching is the ability to listen. And there's different levels of listening, right? And so, being able to listen, removing yourself, from the conversation and just really listen to the words that they're saying, the body language, the energy around them. That's an opportunity, I would say. So I don't shy away from it. I welcome it now. And I think that with my clients, there's a bit of resistance. Nobody wants to deal with emotions, but they now know that it's an opportunity. So, we work through it.
Well, it's so funny you're talking about emotions because I think in my own life that two things, emotions and ego, those two things, when you figure those out as a leader and you can dump the ego, first of all, dump that and just jam it as much. And the darn thing about both of them is that they'll crop up, right? And you really have to be able to recognize when it's causing a problem. And as a coach, I'm sure you're giving people some cues to go, okay, this is a way you can recognize, and then here's some ways to, divert what you're doing to improve. Because
100%.
Yeah.
I love what you said, Damien, that it creeps up, so maybe removing, like 100% removing the spot is probably impossible because human beings, we can't get rid of our ego, right? So just knowing that it's always there, but you can kind of give it like a vacation, just go away for a couple of days, or the 30 minutes that you're in the meeting or whatever the case may be. So I think shining a light and giving them the tools to know, how to get back into their body, how to get back into their heart, using kind of, this language that a lot of, leaders may shy away from. But just really getting away from the thought and choosing just more, healthy thoughts and positive thoughts and thoughts that have been worked on, so that you're actually choosing them. You're in choice of the behavior rather than being an ego and being in a blind spot and just sort of, operating blindly. So giving them tools to remember that is really important because that's what happens on the daily. On the daily, we're going to go ego, heart, it's what happens. We're human beings. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I absolutely love that. We have some great comments coming in. So Latoya, active listening can be difficult for some. It needs to be practiced. And of course, our dear friends, we've got Rosemary here. Hey, Rosemary, listening helps you discover where the pain points are. Of course, Rebecca says this is the way. And I want to go back up here. Rosemary again, she says you need to build that circle of trust.
Yeah.
Right on, Aline. And so, I want to go into here. I have the honor privilege of being part of a mastermind group, if you will. And our fearless leader is none other than Better Than Bad, Miss Aline here. So we're part of the Dory Clark, recognize the Rexer group. And so we've got Rebecca here today. We've got Rosemary. And boy, when we joined that group, you raised your hand and you said, hey guys, I'm going to start a little mastermind. Who would like to participate? And I've learned so much in this group. It's such an honor, privilege, the friendships that we've created. And I know I learn from you every single meeting, Aline, and you talk a lot about like that empathy and, you know, being involved with the clients on that leadership component. Can you share a little bit about why, as a leader, why is that empathy? And maybe, you know, if you haven't, you know, I hope I'm not duplicating and overlapping on a question, but talk about that empathy. Why is that so important for that, you know, being that influential leader as opposed to, like, as you're describing, that authority?
Yeah. You know, empathy baseline, whether you're a business leader or human being, you know, we all want to understand what the other person is feeling and thinking, and just being able to put ourselves in their shoes without trying to understand it from our perspective. So, you know, picking up on what Latoya was saying, active listening is really important. It's really difficult, but it is the way, you know, to help us, you know, have empathy for the other, you know. And I think, you know, when we're talking about influence and authority, authority is ego, and authority is like, I'm your boss, go do what you need to do, and I need it done by X amount of time. And maybe that person will do exactly that, but is that person really engaged in the process? Is that person going to stick, you know, there for you? Are they part of building, you know, the vision? You know, are they moving things along? Likely not. They might still do it because, you know, we need a paycheck sometimes and we have a job, you know, but the idea that if you're building a business or if you're building a team, and if you're, you know, you're raising your leadership and evolving your leadership, you want to be able to care about the other. You know, you want to be able to really put yourself in their shoes and really understand them, because you need to move the business along. This isn't just like kumbaya, my friends, right? Like, you need to move the business along, but you need to move it from a way that's very sustainable. And that happens by just being a decent human being. And decent human being, empathy, listening, and you inspire action. People want to do things for you. You know, they want to help you move the vision forward. And then they're happy and you're happy and everybody's happy. And there's a total possibility to make a whole lot of money in that happiness, you know, to be uberly successful in that happiness. You know, that sort of, you know, limiting belief of, oh, to be a good person means like humbleness and all that stuff. It really is not part of this, the conversation. Is that, you know, there's a real possibility to inspire action, to make it sustainable, you know, and that everybody's winning, you know, not just the boss, because you're the boss, and everybody's successful and everybody's thriving, you know. And so that's the role, I think, of empathy in terms of influence, and in terms of ROI, in terms of getting the business, you know, moving forward. So that's, you know, that's what I would say. And just to maybe just go deeper on the listening part, you know, how do we listen? You know, how do we, like, when people say, oh, great, you know, like, we should all listen. But there's a real formula, you know, to how to listen. You know, there's 3 levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is when you're having a conversation and you're already thinking about the person that's talking, and you're already thinking about what to say, you know, and that's fine. You know, like, sometimes we have to, if somebody's asking us a direct question, we have to think about that. But when it comes to leadership and affecting change and inspiring action, you want to start to get into the active, in the level 2 listening. Level 2 listening is you're just not in the picture. You know, as a person, you're really listening to the words that they're saying. You're asking them a question. You're listening to the tone in their voice. You're listening to their body language. You're listening to just generally the area. That's a little bit more into level 3 listening. You know, when you start to kind of use your intuition. Where does intuition come from? You know, like, all that stuff. Just, you know, we know it. We don't know how to prove that there's intuition. You walk sometimes, you know, down the hall with somebody and you just sense something. There's an energy. That's sometimes level 3 listening. And that gives you access to so much information, you know. And so I think there's a real key skill that leaders can learn, you know, when it comes to listening, because most leaders, what they want is to fix a problem. Right. So you've got somebody coming in and, you know, and then they go to the leader, their boss, and they're like, I've got a problem. And so the leader just, you know, jumps in, solution, let's go. I'll find you the solution. I think what you want to do is probably sometimes kind of, you know, hold on that and trust that the other person has the answer. And you do that by listening to them, you know, by listening and asking them questions and helping them figure out the answer themselves. So now what you're doing is you're solving the problem, but you're empowering the other person to feel really good about the solution that they just found on their own. So next time, perhaps they actually might think deeper about the issue without having to come to the leader, because they feel empowered. that they could find a solution. They trust themselves more. So yeah, real little, tricks that, leaders can do to help, things move along in a way that's sustainable and influential. So.
Okay. We're just gonna, Damon.
Yeah. Moment of silence.
Aline, that's a moment of silence right there. We're just savoring the words, the brilliance, the wisdom. We're just going to
let it come in.
3 levels of listening. Absolutely love that. We have some great comments coming here. Boy, you get the chat box on fire. When you're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions. Both, I love this. Both theirs and your own. Rosemary says Rexer's rock, of course, right? We've got Latoya dropping the person won't be vested without feeling listened to and or feeling valued and listening. A tool to teach. Are you hearing or actually listening?
Exactly.
Right? And that is just such a powerful thing. Now I want to change gears just a little bit. Now, if I have this correct, you launched your entrepreneurial career 2010. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Can you take it? So for anybody out there, maybe that's working in corporate or they're at a manufacturer or, maybe they're already an entrepreneur and they're boy, you took that leap of faith. For all of us that were around 2010, a little bit of a challenging time, financial, we're so fresh in a financial crisis. Talk a little bit about the courage, that leap of faith. What did it take for you? You could have built a wonderfully successful career staying corporate, but you took that leap. Can you just share a little bit of what inspired you or what went on in that process to become an entrepreneur in 2010?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a little bit of a longer story, but like I came back from France to Canada to be with my dad who had developed Alzheimer's. So the purpose of me leaving France to go to Canada was to have time to spend with my dad. And then I joined, the PR agency, wonderful learning, wonderful, agency, did some brilliant work with a lot of different, clients in different industries. But my value as a human being wasn't met in the sense that I was spending 14 hours at work, great work, but I wasn't spending time with my dad. I couldn't find the energy and the peace, to have that, time with my dad. And so then I really had to look at that. That was the primary reason for me. And mind you, I should say that I had started businesses before, and it's part of my family. So there's a bit of courage. Yes, I think I do have a lot of courage, but I also feel I've seen that closely in my life, so that has helped me say, you can jump, right? So I think, let's say you don't have that in your life. I think what you need to know is to know what's important to you. What's important to you is really the beginning part of taking a risk, and launching something or starting, a business, leaving a comfortable corporate job. You really want to pay attention to that, because you can stay in the corporate job, but then you're suffering as a human being. Eventually down the road, you'll feel that. And so listening to yourself is really important, knowing what your values are. Like, for somebody probably much younger at the time, I was in my 30s when that was happening. That was important at that time for me to spend time with my father and to be at peace doing that, and so knowing yourself is really important, taking a risk. And here's the thing, what I'll say about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing it anyway, and so when I did that, I had a mortgage. I did not have lined up, clients, you know what I mean? Like ready to jump on board. But I was very nervous and I was very scared. And so I just knew though that because I could see it clearly for me, that all I needed to do was just go for it and then figure it out as I go along. So I did not have the most strategic business plan. I was not 100% ready. I had saved some money. So I think that's definitely important, right? So that if you want to take a risk, you want to think a little bit about a backup plan, but also don't think too long and don't think too much. I think sometimes when you are courageous, you're just doing it afraid without a lot of information, but you're just doing it anyway. And that's how you really build it. My formula. I don't know if it works on everybody, but I've seen that, a number of times from various different, clients that I've worked with, family members, people that I've known in my life. And a lot of people really do jump. And as the quote says, you jump and then you build your wings on the way down,
Yep.
So, yeah.
Man,
Yeah, it's a quote I use often, because it's really, when you talk to, as you do, with the startup people and entrepreneurs, the story is similar. They know there's a reason why. It's their values don't align. They aren't fulfilled with the work they're doing, whatever it is, and they know there's a better way. They don't know exactly the path, but they know there is a better way.
Right.
That's so great.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And so, just fighting through the fear, being, having courage isn't replacing or eliminating fear. It's just fighting through the fear and doing it anyway. I absolutely love that. So you've done a great job. And I've dropped your website in the chat, in the comments here. So check out Aline's website. You want to check out her newsletter. Now, you also talk about one of your superpowers, taglines, converting vision to results. Do I have that correct? Converting vision to results.
Yeah.
So if Damon and I, we love preaching to manufacturers. We love, how can we help with that e-commerce strategy, digital transformation, if you will. Talk a little bit about what are some strategies that you use with your clients that you could share with folks today? Like, how do you convert that vision into results?
Yeah. It's gaining the trust of others. So that's the journey that I take them on, is to get to the idea of, when you trust somebody, then you move vision to results. There's no other way. Trust is really what you're aiming for. Mm-hmm. So, then the question would be, how do you get trust? Because once you have trust, vision is moving to results. There's no question about it, and so the idea is that, how do you build trust with somebody? So we've talked a few things, empathy, self-awareness, communicating, you know what I mean? A lot of times we communicate with such a mask, with such flowery words, with such, like too much thinking. And sometimes we just have to release, sometimes the words as they are, with our teams, with people. And so, those are the kind of things I work with clients on. But really, I've built like a model where it's very much focused on self-awareness. Then it's, really adapting your behaviors based on the awareness and the confidence that you gain. So once you're confident from a place that feels very true and clear, you're able to adapt your behavior. So a behavior of listening, your presence, your body presence, the way that you speak to somebody, the energy that you bring in, to a meeting or to a conversation, the way that you communicate, whether through just, a blog post, or whether you're communicating in a meeting or communicating in a conversation or on the phone. Listening, we talked a little bit about that, so we move through, the model over, a 12 months period, that I work with my clients on. And then we start to get into credibility. Once you're able to listen to somebody and you're making them feel empowered and they feel like they are valued, they're being seen, they're being heard, they're being understood. And then you actually do the things that you're saying you're going to do, when you are promising somebody something, or when you are, scheduling meetings and then showing up to the meetings, and you're showing up prepared, and you're showing up with great energy and clarity and confidence, you're building credibility. And then once you build credibility, you're able to move into a reputation that's sustainable. This is where trust happens and inspiration happens. You can build a reputation from just a standard public relations perspective, and it works great. But the way that I work is I go further into, who are you as a person? How are you showing up? And then what kind of wow factor are you having, with your reputation, so that when you're speaking with somebody, you're just inspiring. You're moving them into action. They feel really good about who they are. They trust you because you're consistent with your language, you're consistent with your presence, you're consistent with your listening. And you build trust that way. And then people really want to do things for you. I've seen this a number of times with so many different clients, from, CEOs to even like high potential, leaders that are moving from one sort of area of their career to another. It really is all about influencing people. And then when they trust you, you can influence them so much more to do what you want them to do. And that's how you move vision to results. Really is a trust sort of game.
Okay, this This is so good.
Yeah. You just have to hold on there for a second, just relax and listen, reflect on that a little.
So, all right, if you're catching this on replay, you just want to take that little, drag that little, that one for a little replay and just like listen to that one over again. So, all right, just to kind of recap, and I want to take it a step further on that building trust. We've talked about empathy. How do you convert vision to results? Leadership through influence. And I'm off script again, so I'm just kind of asking a little goofy, naive question. Like we talk about like that vulnerability, empathy. If a leader, where's the line on, hey, I want to really show myself, my emotion. Maybe I broke into tears in front of the team or what have you. Where's the line of where the team was like, gee, I can't believe Kurt just did this, or I can't, like, where do you draw the line of like showing some emotion or like showing that empathy or vulnerability versus, boy, I'm kind of losing a little bit of the confidence in, you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a line, or how far do we take that vulnerability line of maintaining that confidence and trust?
Sure. And I think that the quick answer is context. Like context is really important. Like, is it necessary for you to be, that emotional and that open and that vulnerable in every single situation?
Yeah.
Because then it's a formula. It's not authentic, right? And so I think that you want to be less formulaic about how you're showing up and just say, oh, authenticity is the thing to do these days in leadership. So let me just be authentic. Or let me just, share everything. That's like when people go on social media and they share everything.
Right.
Unnecessary. Really, context is really important. Context is really knowing your audience, basic stuff, right? Read the room, like really reading the room requires you then, gives you the information whether certain things are important to share, because emotions can take up everybody's energy, and so, but how do you know that? It's if you're self-aware. If you're self-aware, you know when to really be able to share your emotion. Otherwise, you can just kind of deal with them at a different time. So just reading the room, knowing your audience, I think, contexts are ways to consider when, to answer your question, Kurt, about this whole idea of vulnerability, all the time. I don't think it's necessary. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, that's a fantastic answer. We have a couple great comments. Again, Rosemary, I tell you, Rosemary, the queen of communication. I'll tell you, she is absolutely phenomenal. Good, clear, consistent communication plays a central role in building trust. You guys want to absolutely connect with Rosemary. She's doing a great webinar next week at IMEC for us. And then LaToya, the team you're creating will accept and support as well the trust. I love that. So, Aline, I know, man, I could talk with you all day. I want to be mindful of your time. You're doing some amazing work with, you're now sliding into like academia, and man, you swing for the fences. You don't mess around with the small guys. You go right after the Ivy League. I know you're doing some great work at Columbia University. Talk a little bit like from that side of things, educating, helping folks understand, these leadership values that you're implementing and teaching. Talk a little bit about what your webinars, some of what you're doing, some of the work you're doing with universities now.
Yeah, I think, I didn't know how much I would love it until I, was doing it, and I just absolutely love it. And I think that it's part of, the same sort of thing for me in terms of helping people really be self-aware, and especially young leaders as they're growing, or startup founders as they're growing their business. It's so interesting and meaningful to be at the ground level of who they're choosing to be, what their intention is, in terms of who they are as leaders. So from a academia perspective, that's what I love, and that's what I'm hoping to teach. And it really is right now this idea, the fight between content marketing or earned media, so owned media or earned media, and it falls into this idea of showing up as who you are. It falls into this idea that content is really important, and having a voice is really important, and sharing it, letting people know who you are is really important. So that's, the focus that I have right now with academia, and it's just starting. So it's up for evolution and creation. I don't want to go in with just 100% my idea. Right. I kind of love to co-create. And so we'll see kind of, what that produces and what I'll be able to sort of, evolve the program, to be.
Well, we wish you massive success with
Yes.
this direction. And you're not, Damon, you're not going to, what a coincidence this is. Look who dropped a comment straight from Columbia University. We have Glamis, my dear friend Glamis. Glamis, you and Aline absolutely have to connect. You guys would be besties. And she is at the Small Business Development Center at Columbia University, right in Manhattan. And she is a rock star. So we were colleagues years and years ago. And this is hysterical. Every year, Glamis would win like the advisor. You know, there were like hundreds of advisors throughout all of New York State. And year in, year out, Glamis would win the advisor of the year. That's why I left. It always hurt my feelings. And I'm teasing. I love Glamis. Like, but she has a great question here. Is an excessive sick or off days an indicator of employment happiness? How about that question?
I mean, you know, I think the answer is yes. You want to ask yourself, why is the employee, you know, taking as many days as they are? You know, I think a sign of a healthy, you know, workspace is a workplace where people want to show up. They want to roll up their sleeves, you know, they want to do, you know, the work together. They want to sort of move things into action, to move it into action. So I would say that yes, you know, excessive is really a sign of there's something that's going on there. And a good leader would ask, you know, a good leader would take note of that, you know, would notice these things and start asking, you know, like, you know, is there a reason for that? And to engage and perhaps could bring, you know, that person back in from an inspirational perspective. So yeah, I would say yes, it is a sign.
Perfect. And that slides in right into a perfect question, because I think you have a quote on your website. People follow you because they want to, not because they have to.
Yep.
Right. And I know we're coming into time, but that could be one of our wind down questions right there. Sure. You know, I know a lot of my friends that are in corporate, you know, maybe if they've jumped around or whenever they've left, I hear a tagline of, I don't have a corporate career. I've always been an entrepreneur, but I always hear people don't necessarily leave companies, they leave people. Right. Can you just share a little bit on your experience or your thoughts when you're working with leaders on people that want to follow versus they have to follow?
Yeah, I think that business is run by people. So, you know, it really is less about the ideas, you know, and more about people. You know, everybody is very smart and capable to come up with amazing, innovative ideas. But how you are able to come up with that is by honoring the person for who they are, you know. And I think that when people follow you because they want to, then they're creating amazing ideas and innovative, you know, ways of expanding the business. And it really is, you know, when people follow you because they want to, or when people follow you because they have to, is influence versus authority. 100%. You know, authority is, I'm your boss, you gotta follow me, so you follow me, you know. Influence is, I want to follow you because I just something about you. I want to learn from you. I something about you that makes me feel seen and heard and valued. And I want to help you. And I know that you're helping me too. So that's what I would say about that. Yeah.
That is awesome. We've got one more comment here from our dear friend Megan. Knowing yourself as a leader, engendering authentic power acts as a natural power of example for others to create themselves as leaders. So that is a great comment. So Aline, let's wind down. I know we're coming into time here, and I've got a ton. I'm going to ask you one last question, I guess. We talk, you and I, on our mastermind group and together as friends. And again, my admiration, my respect, my love for you is just off the charts. You've just been such a blessing to me in my professional growth this year. Share a little bit on, we were talking about diversity. Okay. So if there's manufacturers out there that maybe struggle with, like, you know, hey, workforce has been awful this year, and maybe they want to get more intentional on creating a more diverse workforce. Any tips, advice that you would share with folks that are trying to get more intentional, creating diversity in their workplace?
Yeah, I will answer that question. I just want to say right back at you, Kurt. You know, I don't know anybody that, you know, knows you that doesn't love you. You're amazing. So thank you for your friendship. So I think diversity, what's really important about diversity is that a lot of people need to understand before they allow you the space to be heard, you know, and seen. So if you just remove that from the equation, like it's okay that you don't understand the other person, but just asking them question invites diversity. And obviously we're talking like other than skin color and gender, you know, and that, like there's education, you know, diversity, you know, experience, you know, places that you've lived, you know, different experiences, different industries. So I think sometimes when we see somebody so different from us, you know, we want to understand before we kind of go in, you know, and accept, you know, the situation or the other person. So I think for me, what I've seen about diversity is that it's less about understanding and just more about allowing us to inspire each other through our differences, not through our similarities. So that, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Inspiring others through our differences. There we go.
Inspiring others through our differences. That's like that's the drop the mic.
Yeah, it is.
Damn. I wish I had a mic.
It is.
Man, I got mine right here. I'm dropping it. How's that? Damon, you got yours right there? Drop your mic.
Thanks. I'll just get down.
Inspire through our differences.
Yeah.
Okay. I promise my last question.
All right.
Inspiration. Who, man, this was so good. Aline, and I, oh my goodness. Okay. I'm trying to get my, see, we were talking about emotional earlier. You know, I'm trying to, Damon, you know how I get a little fired up. I'm trying to tame my emotions right now. This was so good. Aline, I can't thank you enough. Let's talk about inspiration and I promise this will be my last question for you. Okay. You shared Tony, if you're still listening, God bless you, brother, you know, did an amazing job. Big brother, little brother. See, big brother, little brother.
Big brother. I'm the youngest of 7. Are you kidding?
Oh, you're the baby of 7.
Oh, there we go. There you go. Awesome.
Damon, how many in your family? How many kids did you
5
have? You had 5. Okay, well, she's got you beat. Man, it was just me and my sister. It was just the 2 of us. But, okay, Aline, let's, you know, you had a wonderful, magical year. If you don't mind me sharing on our live today, you made a big move, right? Can I share that today? You know, man, you were just beaming, just, you know, you bought a new place that you're living in Barcelona. I have that correct. You have a condo and you were just so thrilled, so excited. And again, we have a group of folks that we've come together with. Rosemary, Rebecca are here. Everybody else in our group, Robin, Kristen, Dana, Tiffany, our little mastermind group, great group of inspiration. Who inspires you today? Who inspires you? You're a driving force. You're a powerhouse, helping C-level executives. You're now working with Ivy League universities. Who is your inspiration today?
You know, it's so funny. I just joined this co-working space here in the city, and you know, they did an event where we get to know each other, and so they asked that question. You know, they asked like, who inspires you? And you know, I can rhyme a number of people that inspire me. I really learn through people, right? But what came to me that other day was really different. I think it's, you know, there's some bad people out there, right? And so there's bad leaders and bad behavior, you know, that people sometimes, you know, showcase and show us. So I think for me, honestly, it's that type of person that really inspires me to just be more responsible for who I am as an individual. You know, I think that, you know, we need to really look at ourselves and look at the energy that we're bringing to the world and to our teams and to our clients and to our families and everybody around us. So I think lately this is what I see. So, you know, maybe I can judge them, but I try not to. And I take away that, you know what, that's going to remind me that I have to do some work, continuously do work on myself, because I'm responsible for the energy that I bring to the world. So.
Okay.
Zen. I love this. This is great.
It's dinner time. It's dinner time in Barcelona, so we're just kind of savoring it. It's lunchtime here in New York. Damon, you're still breakfast-ish time, so we're just kind of soaking this all in. All right, guys, let's.
Awesome.
Lena's super busy. I want to let her go. So, combination of things. Number 1, inspire by others' differences. Boy, that was a big mic drop. We've had all sorts of incredible, valuable information. Better listening, better communication, you know, some great strategies on building that trust and how to really build that dynamic team. So, Aline, first off, thank you. Thank you. We salute you. We praise you. We worship you. You are just such a winner. Guys, We strongly encourage you, connect with Aline here on LinkedIn. Check out her website. You do yourself a favor. You'll thank me later. Sign up for her newsletter. She has great, wonderful information, a lot of great strategies that you just caught here, just a lot of wonderful things. Aline, thank you. Yeah, I can't express my gratitude to you. This was just such a blessing. And, coming together through Dory Clark's group is just, what a great decision that was to join her group, just to have this moment with you today. So,
wow. I know.
You know who Dory Clark's hero was? Damon, do you remember that one? I asked Dory Clark, who was your hero growing up? You know what she said? James Bond.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was James, and Damon, she didn't bat an eye, did she? She was like,
not at all.
it was James Bond, And I was like, well,
I love it.
Yeah, so only Dory Clark would answer that.
Yeah.
So, Aline, thank you for everything that you do. We want to check you out at future universities, your workshops, your trainings. If this really sung your song, did I say that right? Connect with Aline. She can help you as a leadership coach. Damon, what do you got going on this week? You got Faces of Business Tuesday and Thursday, 6:00 Eastern, 3:00 Pacific. We have a great guest. We're over the pond. We have a gentleman from Germany on Friday. So we're
special time this week.
We're in Spain today. We're in Germany on Friday. Just all sorts of good, exciting things. I think, where am I? I'm at Temple University in an hour. So if you guys want to learn about SEO, I'm at Temple University at 2:00 Eastern Time. So, okay, we're going to wind down. Damon, anything you want to part us out with?
No, just thanks, Aline, for being here. It's great.
Okay, everybody.
So
if you've been sitting down for this whole program, let's all stand up, stand and rise. Little standing ovation for Aline. I'm standing up.
I just want to say thank you to both of you so much for such a great conversation and honestly for what you do. It's so wonderful that there are such leaders like yourselves, and it just sort of keeps us inspired, to do this work that we're all doing. So,
hey, Glamis gives a thanks and a hello. So you've got to connect with.
I will connect with Glamis for sure. Yeah.
So, all right, Aline, hang out with us 1 second. We'll get you on to dinner and on with your day.
All right.
You guys, keep spreading your awesomeness. Have an amazing, incredible week, and we will catch you next time.
Do what you need.
Bye, everybody.